never be broken. You can't shoot it. They hit big shots. I think the Clippers have no idea. Oh, look at that, Rick.
What do you say? What do you know? It's the full Monte Sports Show. It is Sunday, November 21st, 2021. I am your host, Monte Perez, a.k.a. the Sports Whisperer. I want to thank everyone for watching last week. We had 31 states tune in across the country. Again, if you like this show, subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. Make sure you give us a thumbs up on this show. Our goal is to do this 5 days a week. And we can only do this with your help. You can follow me on social media, on Facebook, Monte Perez, on Instagram, Monte Perez 2, on Twitter, MonteJP231, and on TikTok, Monte Perez 231. Try to keep my names all similar. Trying to manage my social media accounts as best as I can. It's a lot at times. It definitely is. It is definitely a lot. Okay, we have the best guests all across the country. This week is no exception. In about 15 minutes, we are going to have Gus Frerotte join us. You may know him as a former NFL quarterback. I know him from his show, Huddle Up with Gus. Got to check it out. Great show. Ton of guests. He's going to be talking about the NFL and his experience. Always brings knowledge and entertainment to our show. And then we have Rico Show Me the Money Graziano. He has 7 winning weeks, 3 losing weeks betting against the spread. He is winning people money. Listen to Rico. It is definitely going to help you financially. And also, George Lopez is going to join us. He's going to talk about the Rams on a 2-game losing streak. Matthew Stafford looks terrible all of a sudden. See if they can get back on track. If anyone can get him back on track, it is Sean McVay. But first, we start each show with the good, the bad, and the funny. So let's start with the good. You know, America loves comeback stories, right? They love comeback stories. And what a great comeback story we have here in Cam Newton. Cam Newton was just named the starter in Carolina. The Panthers are now 5-5, and they play the Washington football team. Cam Newton going up against his old coach in Ron Rivera. Cam Newton going up against his old coach in Ron Rivera. You know, this defense in Carolina is pretty damn good. They're first in passing yards, only giving up 173 yards per game. That is 6th, only giving up 19.6 points per game. So we know their defense is good, right? Sam Darnold played great the first 3 weeks of the season. Then he started to struggle. Christian McCaffrey's getting healthy. We saw Robbie Anderson starting. I'm just saying right now, Matt Rule may have his guy because this defense, remember 2 years ago, Matt Rule drafted 8 defensive players using all his draft picks. The only coach in the history of the NFL to use all 8 draft picks on one side of the ball. They are 5-5. If they win today, they're back in the playoff picture. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say Cam Newton is going to be, his what he once was on his MVP year, where I believe he had, off the top of my head, 35 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 10 rushing touchdowns. So I think he had like a 45 touchdown to 10 interception ratio. But this team could make the playoffs. Watch out for Carolina. Watch this space. All right, so that's the good. Let's get to the bad. You know, we live in a society now where coworkers don't want to speak out against bad coworkers. For example, a bad doctor won't speak out against another doctor. A bad police officer won't speak out. A good police officer won't speak out against a bad police officer. We see this all the time on social media, back the blue. I'm not going to back the blue. I'm going to back good police officers, but blindly backing someone is just not the way to go. It's just not the way to go. So when you say, oh, back the blue, no, I'll back the blue or anyone if there are good police officers. But we see this in the NFL. We see this in the NBA. We've seen this in Major League Baseball. But thank God, the NFL, again, leadership, okay? Zach Stacy, I'm not going to show the video, brutally attacked the mother of his baby, punched her in the head, threw her into the TV, just a brutal scene. Devontae Adams came out and said, Zach Stacy needs to be thrown under the jail. Any man who puts his hands on a woman is a coward. Can't believe what I just saw. Chris Long, who played with Stacy in St. Louis, said, woke up with Zach Stacy video, made my stomach turn. I'm not going to retweet it. He is a disgusting human being. And finally, Calais Campbell on Twitter. Any man that puts his hands on a woman is a coward, short of defending yourself in a life and death situation. There is no excuse. So where we see our police officers who will not speak out against bad, corrupt police officers, we are now seeing NFL players front and center speaking out against Zach Stacy. Hopefully this coward, this despicable human being gets charged to the fullest extent of the law. Gets charged to the fullest extent of the law. I'm not going to post a video. I watched it once. It's just disgusting. It is just, and to do that in front of your 5-month-old baby, Zach Stacy, I don't know how you were raised. I don't know what has gotten into your life that you feel you need to beat up a helpless woman. You could go screw yourself, dude. And I hope you see a lot of jail time. All right, so that's the good. That's the very bad. Now let's get to funny. We've all butt dialed people, right? I've gotten butt dialed calls, and no matter who calls you, the first 30 seconds you're like a detective. You're like, what are they saying? What are they saying? Are they talking about me? What's going on? But it's mostly muffled. You can't hear it. You don't know what's going on. But again, only in Florida. We literally have the stupidest criminals in the world. Only in Florida. 3 people had a conversation. They butt dialed 911. Authorities overheard 3 people talking about an alleged drug operation and decided to investigate after tracing the call on a butt dial. They went to the person's house. There was a meth lab. There was a meth lab. So, again, only in Florida would this happen. 3 suspects were charged with manufacturing and possession with intent to sell. Butt dialed, and the police heard everything about their meth operation. Good morning, everyone. Yes, keep the comments coming. We love having them. We have one of the most interactive shows all over the YouTube. I compare our chat room with anyone in the country, to be honest with you. I really do. Keep the chat. I am the master of butt dial. Okay, keep the comments coming. It is time now for me to break down every game in the NFL. One of my favorite segments of the show. I'm 89-39 picking NFL games. 89-39 picking NFL games. Again, I do this just so fans who don't bet can get a feel for what to watch for, what to look for. 89-39. My goal is to be 80%, trying very hard to get there. This week, I should take a step in that right direction. Okay, here we go. The 3-6 Giants at the 6-3 Bucks. Tampa is 4-0 at home, 2-3 on the road. Listen, guys, Tampa is still going to be a factor when it comes to the postseason. This is where Tom Brady's teams start to gel, right? This is where they start to gel. November, December, hitting their stride. And I've been saying this for 2 years. Stop telling me Joe Judge, the coach of the Giants, is a good coach. Okay? 6-10, 3-6, 9-16 as the head coach. So don't tell me Joe Judge is a good coach. I'm taking the Bucks here, who haven't looked great lately. They have not looked great, but I'm taking the Bucks 30-20. Okay, big game here. Colts 5-5 at 6-3 Buffalo. Buffalo has allowed fewer than 24 points in 8 straight games this season. That is tied. I'm sorry, not 8 straight games, 8 games overall. That is tied for the second best in the NFL. But this team is Jekyll and Hyde. We're going to talk to Gus about this. How do you go into Jacksonville and lose 9-6? I want to take the Colts here. I really do. I want to take the Colts, but I got to assume Buffalo's going to win here. I'll take Bills Mafia, crazy fan base at home. I'm taking Buffalo 27-23. 27-23. Okay, Saints 5-4 at the Eagles 4-6. We look at this Philly team and we say, hey, their offense struggles. They don't have a deep offense. But over the last couple of weeks, they're averaging 32.7 points per game. That is second in the NFL. Heisman Trophy winner from Alabama. Smith is starting to get some momentum, starting to get some feel with Jalen Hurts. I don't know what I'm getting offensively week to week from the Saints. I don't know what I'm getting week to week from the Saints. I mean, this is a team that beat my Packers 38-3 opening night. They also beat Tampa Bay, but then they struggle at certain times. So I don't know what the hell to get. If this game was in New Orleans, I would take the Saints. Don't ask me why. I'm taking the Eagles in a slight upset, 27-24. Okay, 0-8-1 Lions at the 5-5 Browns. Exactly. I picked this thing because it's time for the Browns to get back on track. It's time to get back on track. I don't really know what Detroit does well, to be honest with you. I do know this. Jared Goff has never won a game where Sean McVay didn't coach him. Remember when Jared Goff was drafted by the Rams, it was Fisher who coached him, and he never won a game. Now he goes to Detroit. He hasn't won a game. They got close last week. They tied. If you don't have Nick Chubb in your fantasy football team, if you do daily fantasy football, get Nick Chubb. He's going to rush for 140 yards. Take the Browns here, 34-23. Okay. I'm starting to think we have the 4-5 49ers at the 2-7 Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm starting to think the 49ers are starting to get some momentum here. They destroyed the Rams last week. Garoppolo, over the past few games, 109.8 passer rating. A lot of that has to do with George Kittle coming back. A lot of that has to do with Deebo Samuel here. He's an elite wide receiver right now. This is a game where if the 49ers lose, their fan base is going to go crazy. This is a game where the 49ers got to take care of business, get back into that playoff picture. Be honest. I have a lot of questions about Kyle Shanahan and his coaching ability. I think he's all trickery. But when you keep it simple, no one wants to play this 49er team in the playoffs. They're going to roll here, or they should roll here. They should roll here 34-20. 34-20. Okay, 1-8 Texans at the 8-2 Titans. I'm not going to pay too much attention to this game. No one outside of Houston and Tennessee will. Here's all you need to know. The Titans have won 6 straight games. 6 straight games. That is the most since 2008 with Tennessee. Houston has quit on their team. They're 1-8. The players don't seem motivated. They won their first game against Jacksonville, and then since then, it's just been a disaster. They've lost 8 straight games. Listen, the Titans are going to be 9-2 after this week. 9-2. Titans roll here 40-17. 40-17. Yeah, Andrea, I'm not a big believer in the Lions to win today, to be honest with you. I'm not a big believer in the Lions to win today. Okay, Bears versus Ravens. We don't know the status of Lamar Jackson. He doesn't have COVID, but he's sick as a dog. He hasn't been feeling well. He hasn't really been practicing. The Bears lost their linebacker, Khalil Mack. He's out for the year. Here's a stat that I find mind-boggling. When a team comes off a bye, meaning that they didn't play the week before, they usually play better. The Bears have lost 7 straight games. 7 after a bye week. 7 straight games they've lost after a bye week. How is that even possible? How is that even possible? Even without Lamar Jackson, okay? If Lamar Jackson plays, they should win by 10 points. If not, I'm still taking the Ravens to win 33-24. But I just don't understand that stat with the Bears. 0-7 off a bye week. How is that even possible? How is that even possible if you're in Chicago? Okay, let's get to this game. I think this game's going to be high scoring. Both teams have struggled. Both teams started off hot, and now they're battling for a playoff spot. Home team in this matchup between the Raiders and the Bengals, 7-1 in their last 8. Don't ask me why, but I think Joe Burrow makes a big play late. This is a high-scoring game. Take Cincinnati, 38-35. And finally, Cardinals at the Seahawks. The Cardinals have scored 30 or more points in 5 road games. They say offense doesn't travel. It does for the Cardinals. Okay? I'm not buying Seattle. I don't think even with Russell Wilson being 100%, they win this game. I think the Cardinals get back to their winning ways. I'm taking the Cardinals here, 33-27, 33-27. I am 89-39 picking NFL games. I want to be 80%. That's the goal. That's what we're striving for. Yes, it's a terrible injury for Mac. Terrible injury for Mac, Andrea. I agree with you for the Bears. He's their emotional leader, a physical presence. And even if he doesn't put up numbers, it's a lot like J.J. Watt, right? J.J. Watt may not have been what he was before he got injured, but you still got to account for him. Please keep the comments coming. We are going to bring on our guest now, Gus Frerotte. You may know him for playing in the NFL from 1994 to 2008, or his show, Huddle Up with Gus. Love having him on every few weeks. Gus, how are you this morning? Thanks for joining us.
Hey, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Gus. A lot to talk about this week. Let's get right to it. I actually was watching one of your older shows this week, and you said that you were the biggest prankster in the locker room. Like, you were the one who did the pranks, correct?
Most of the time, yes.
Okay, so can you share?
Those guys would come and prank me then because they were so mad.
So can you share with us a story about one time you pranked someone and it was legendary, and one time you got pranked that you're like, damn, they got me?
Well, there was a time. Wait, my hat's all crooked there. Let's get it fixed up. I am crooked today anyway. So my best prank ever was Ryan Fitzpatrick. He was a young guy at the Rams, and I just came in, and he was such a good person. And you don't want to prank people that can't take a joke. So Ryan was really good. I picked on him a lot, said stuff about him in the paper that wasn't true, and he would just laugh it off because he knew I was just kidding around. And then I got to find the picture of it though, and so Ryan went to Harvard. And I used to tell people all the time that he didn't go to Harvard to play football. He went to Harvard because the band recruited him. And the football team saw what an athlete he was, and they asked him if he would want to play. So that's kind of how the whole thing started. And then I got our camera guy because back then, I mean, even then, I didn't have any clue of how to, fix a picture or make it into something else or take part of the picture off. So our camera guy helped me out with that. So what he did, he took Ryan in a Harvard uniform. Ryan was throwing a ball back and forth like this, and it was a picture, and he had his Harvard uniform on. And so we took the ball out, and we put a bouquet of roses and a trumpet in the other hand. And we said, "Happy Holidays" from the Harvard band. And it was Brian's picture on there. And what Mark Bolger and I did is we stayed after practice one night, and everybody left the building in St. Louis. And Bolger and I went to the copy room, and we made 8x10 copies of this picture and put it in everyone's mailbox, all the staff, put in everybody's locker. Next morning, we are walking up to our quarterback meetings, and a secretary comes up from one of the departments, goes, "Ryan, thank you so much for the Christmas card. I really appreciate it." He goes, "Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome." And he looked at us, and we're like, "I don't know. Maybe Liza sent Christmas cards out to everyone." It's his wife. And then I said, then the next, we keep walking, and when we were upstairs where all the staff was, that's where the quarterbacks met. And we walked down the hall a little further, and another lady comes up and says, "Ryan, thank you so much for the Christmas card. Will you please sign it for me?" And so she hands it to him. He grabs it and looks at it and turns around and looks at Bolger and I, and we're just on the floor laughing.
He knew right away it was you guys, right?
Yeah, and he signed it for her. And gave it back to her, and he said "Merry Christmas" and all this stuff, and then And then even the owner at the time, who was Georgia Frontieri, got one in her mailbox. So we gave it to everyone. And once I find it, I'll search it while you ask some questions here. But that was my best prank ever. And I also pulled some other pranks on Ryan that were pretty good. And then the time that got me probably was one when there were several people that would try to get me back. But when Morton Anderson came to the Vikings, it was his last year. And I was the holder, and they're like, you got to hold for him. He's left-footed. I never held for a lefty before. So Morton's a Hall of Famer. He comes in, and it's like 2008. No, wait, it would have been 2004. It would have been my first stint with the Vikings. So Morton comes in. There's Morton. There's a Hall of Famer. He's kicked forever, just a legend. He comes in. We go through a practice, and we get a good rapport. And I take his clothes while he's in a special teams meeting the next morning, and I freeze them because in Minnesota it's freezing outside. So you just put a little warm water, put the clothes in there. And these were like street clothes. He's, Morton dressed nice, and they were street clothes. They froze into a block of ice. I put him back in his locker. So he comes downstairs, and he immediately knows who it is. He says, Frerotte. And I said, what are you talking about? I was in meetings. I didn't do that. And so I go to my meeting.
Here's a picture. This is it right here.
Yeah. Me and Morty.
Right.
The Great Dane. And so we go to I go to my meeting, and I come back down, and my locker is completely empty. And he comes up to me. He goes, you might want to check the goalpost because I think I piped it. And I go outside and look in the freezing weather. Every bit of my clothes are frozen over the goalpost. So
that's awesome.
That was one time. But Morton could take it, but he thought nobody would ever do something like that to him just because he's such a legend. But he and I had a lot of fun. We had a good rapport. And literally, I had to learn how to hold for him in 3 days.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, I mean, you said you've never held for the kicker before, the lefty kicker, right? So was it an adjustment for you to catch it on a different angle, hold it? Was it instantly, it worked right away, or he had to tell you exactly how he wanted it?
He kind of had to tell me, but I just kept working at it. 3 days, it's not much. You just got to switch your brain over a little bit. Morton was very picky on how he liked the ball. Big ball, no tilt, straight up and down, all these things. And he would actually videotape all of our sessions, like all the times that we practiced together, because we'd practice early. We'd go out early, we'd practice, he'd film it. And then we'd have special teams, and I'd do that. And then we go to regular practice, and I'd have to go do the offensive stuff. And he'd pretty much be done for the day. But he was very particular, and we'd watch film. He'd say, let's go watch this film so that you know exactly where I want the ball, how I like it. And we had a great snapper, so that helped us as well. And Colin was really good at what he was doing. So, Morty was just a great guy, and people that can take it, it's a lot of fun to pull pranks on because they don't get upset or mad. And I actually had Ricky Williams on my show, and I was talking to Ricky, and I said, Ricky, I always wanted to pull a prank on you because Ricky was always very quiet in the locker room, and I talked to him every now and then, but not extensively. And I said, I always wanted to pull a prank on you, and I just felt like you wouldn't take it well. He goes, oh my gosh, Gus, I would have loved it, right? He goes, I love pranks and all that. And I'm like, well, I would have never known. I never even saw you laugh.
Yeah, it's the quiet ones. Yeah, that's funny. Gus, so I want to move to something that you could give our fans a perspective on, because the way that I pick division winners, it's real simple formula. I usually go with the best quarterback in the division. And if you look at division winners now, it's really the best quarterback usually wins the division. And then you go with coaching combinations and whatnot. But I don't understand. I know picking division winners, the NFL is a marathon, not a sprint. But I look at Buffalo, and they go to Jacksonville, and they lose to a subpar team 9-6. Gus, have you ever gone in as a heavy favorite? You had a crappy week of practice with the team. Within the first quarter, you're just like, oh, this is a nightmare. Like, how do you fight through that?
That's a hard thing, because when things are not going your way, we see that a lot nowadays, especially when younger kids come in and have to play. But that Bills team is kind of veteran led. There's a lot of great players on that team, and when you have that happen to it, you just almost can't wait to get to halftime. You're trying to put everything off. Let's get to halftime. Let's regroup. Let's talk to the coaches. There's no sense in getting angry at anyone. Let's just move on, because the past is in the past. But we saw with the Bills that they didn't come back as easy as we thought, because every team you play, even though they're not one of the best teams in the league, they still have NFL talent on that team, and you can't ever take anything for granted. And I just feel like the Bills were so out of sync that a team like Jacksonville, who has talent but hasn't won a lot of games, can creep up and beat you. And that's kind of what happened.
All right, Gus. So you played in the league for 15 years. You've seen everything. You played more than most people. That's got to be something that you're so proud of, like the longevity. So I'm sure, like during the week of practice, you're saying to yourself, "Man, we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing." As the quarterback, as the leader, do you meet with defensive guys and say, "Hey, we need to get this right"? Like, how do you, when you see things going bad in practice, and because of your experience, you knew this was not the right way to prepare, and then you go out and you lay an egg? How do you combat that?
Well, I don't think that any offensive player tells any defensive player, like, "Hey, you got to pick it up," right? That's just kind of out of bounds, unless you're maybe the Tom Brady, somebody like that. But even then, I don't think that's like overstepping your bounds. I think what happens is your job is to play as well as you can. And if you can motivate the guys around you or in your huddle to play better, if you know who's making a few mistakes or having a rough day, you kind of feel that and you try to pick them up any way you can. And so the best thing that you can do in those situations when you're having a bad week of practice is to work harder, to go out. Don't stress, just go out and do everything that you normally do, and really try to be calm in that situation, because being upset, because a lot of times when you don't have a good practice, you see people yelling and screaming, and I've done it, and it doesn't help any situation. So I think the best thing to do when you have that week of practice that isn't going well is that you just got to get back to basics. Hey, coach, let me throw some hitches. Let's put some plays that get us positive things happening. And same for the defense, right? And so you want to have full confidence going into the game. And if you have plays that you don't like, you throw them out and you say, let's go back to basics and what's got us here.
Okay, so we saw Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers dominate the Rams once again. Kyle Shanahan has really gotten the better of Sean McVay. Was there a team that no matter what, you always felt more confident than ever because you had success against them? And was there a team that you're like, man, I got to get through this. We got to push through. It's not going to be – it may not be pretty, but we got to get the win.
Yeah, team I always felt great playing. I mean, obviously in your divisions, you love playing against those games, those teams in your division. But I always love going and playing against the Raiders. And I don't know why. Their locker room was the worst locker room ever. Play on half a football field and half a baseball field. It hurt like hell when you'd fall and those stones would get, up your back and in your arms. But I always loved playing against the Raiders. The atmosphere and everything about it was great. And I always hated playing against Tennessee. For some reason, their D linemen, when I would play Tennessee, those guys always hit me the hardest, or we just had the hardest time against Tennessee. So back when Steve McNair was playing, we'd go down there. And then even when I was with the Vikings, we went to Tennessee and played one year, and literally throwing the ball out of the end zone. It's a quick throw, get it out. The guy hits me from behind. My hand goes down first, and my face mask goes into my hand, and I split open a vein right on the top of my hand. It's bleeding everywhere. And I'm like, man, every time I come down here, it's just something else, hurting. And that's just how it is sometimes.
I'm glad you brought up Tennessee. I have a little background up here because I don't know how to get a handle for this team. In my top 5 this week, I had them at number 5. Half the fans were like, you're crazy for putting another that they should be higher. They're 8-2. They've won 6 in a row. They play Houston today, so they should go 9-2. But do you have faith in this team? I know you love Vrabel, but do you have faith in them to make a deep playoff run if they're the number 1 or number 2 seed without Derrick Henry?
Well, they've shown in the past few weeks without Derrick Henry that they can win games. And that was the question. Can Ryan Tannehill lead the team when he doesn't have a horse in the back and behind him being able to, run for however many yards every game? I mean, Derrick Henry was up for MVP until that injury. And so I think with Coach Vrabel, he's done a great job of getting the defense ready, because that's what's going to really pull them through the rest of the season. And that defense keeping points low, not getting into a shootout. And because before they were probably used to, holding on to the ball longer on offense, having a great run game. I mean, even though they picked up Adrian Peterson, but, Adrian's up there and he still looks good. He still runs okay, but I think he's going to be more short yardage guy. But I don't know. You can't count Tennessee out. They've shown a lot of.
I know, but losing Derrick Henry, it's almost like losing Devontae Adams. Like, he is the whole focal point. And I know that the Packers, we'll get into that in a minute, can run the ball. But Derrick Henry is the stir that makes everything drink. You got to account for him. It sets up the play action because, you want to stack the line, then you get beat deep. I mean, I just think first of all, is Mike Vrabel the coach of the year in your opinion?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, not yet. I mean, it's hard to pick a coach of the year now. There's still so many weeks to go, and there's still so many things that can go wrong, and I feel I like the Packers coach because what he did when all their star players were hurt and giving Aaron Rodgers a chance to win, and Aaron still won with hardly anybody on the field. I mean, I thought that was a great game. Kyle Shanahan's proven that he can go out and beat the best. There's a lot of great coaches out there right now. And it's going to be interesting to see who finishes up the best. But one thing I wanted to say about the Titans is even with Derrick Henry, they've gone into the playoffs and lost. Because if a team stops Derrick Henry and that's all you've relied on, you don't really know how to use your other players and what they can do in current situations. So I think this is really good for the Titans in a way that's going to put a lot of pressure on Tannehill through the rest of the season. And that might really help them get to the next level in the playoffs.
That's a great point. One of the reasons why I never bought into Michigan State running back Kenneth Walker for winning the Heisman is because when they get down, like we saw them against Ohio State, he's irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? And you bring up a good point. Even though they've made a couple of a decent playoff runs, they still have lost. So this is a time for them to be more balanced. Is that what you're saying? Or use other guys to step up?
Right. Because, a lot of times you say Tennessee Titans, who's the only guy is Derrick Henry. And, what if I take Derrick Henry away? Then what are you going to do? It's just like you were saying, let's stop the run and then, let's make him throw the ball. And now Tannehill's showing like that's okay. But it's taken him time to get to know his receivers and Julius Jones and Julio Jones and Brown and a couple of the other guys, and they're still going to be able to run the ball because the line is still the same line. It might not be the same breakaways, but I think this is going to prove to be better for them because it's going to make Ryan Tannehill a better quarterback.
Yeah, and listen, I know everyone's going to bring this up. This is, every time I mention his name, someone has to take a shot. Rex Ryan used to say in his press conference all the time, we got to pound the ball, we got to run the ball. And my whole thing was, well, what happens when you go up against an elite defense and you can't run the ball? He was a one-trick pony. Like, we got to run the ball. So you bring up a great point with Tennessee. Now it's time for Ryan Tannehill, who just, signed a huge contract and has played great since he left Adam Gase in Miami. Let's be honest. Who
hasn't played great since they left Adam Gase?
That's a great point right there. Great point. Okay, let's move to the next question. So I'm looking at the Patriots now, and in the beginning, you say to yourself, it's like when Shaq left the Lakers, he won. He went to Miami, they won a title. He won the divorce between him and Kobe. Tom Brady leaves, he won the divorce so far. But I'm looking at this New England team right now, and this is probably Bill Belichick's dream, right? He's got a quarterback who's managing the ball, who doesn't need to make plays. Mac Jones is currently on pace to set the rookie record for completion percentage. They go out, they're winning with defense, they're winning with special teams. Can New England win this division?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, they can, obviously, with how the Bills looked against Jacksonville.
Right.
I think they can, because other than that, there's really nobody they have to worry about, not the Jets, not the Dolphins. But I think Mac Jones is playing really well. I think he's shown his strengths. He's shown that he's smart, and I think it's the perfect quarterback to replace Tom Brady in that system, because what's one thing Belichick never had to worry about was getting the ball out versus blitz, making smart plays. Yeah, Mac Jones is a rookie. He's going to throw some bad throws and learn from all of that. But he's doing some things that a lot of veteran guys aren't doing, where he's moving his feet, throwing the ball to where only his players can get it. He's doing things and showing skill sets that is why he was a pick by Bill Belichick and the Patriots.
Gus, I posted a video yesterday saying, Alabama quarterbacks under Nick Saban never panic in the red zone. Like they have, over the last 6 or 7 years, they have the least amount of turnovers. They're in the top 5 in scoring inside the red zone. And a lot of that has to do with coaching because he is college. But I watch Mac Jones here now, and you could comment on this better than I can because you played in the league for 15 years. Gus, are you impressed with his poise? He never looks rattled, Gus, and rookies get rattled sometimes.
Yeah, especially when they're not having success. It's really hard as a rookie because the press, the media, fans, everybody's different. It's a lot more no matter where you play now. And I think that he's handled things very well. Obviously, when you're playing in Alabama and you're a quarterback, you're going to get great coaching. But their all-around team is not far off. Is not far off from an NFL team, right? So Coach Saban, I'm sure one of the mantras they teach is like, hey, you get in the red zone, we don't have to make the plays. Let's be smart. Let's get the ball out of our hand. Let's not take sacks, and let's have a high completion percentage because we have a defense that we know if we get stopped and we kick a field goal that they're going to play their tail off. And, I think that's the mentality that they teach there because all around team is so good that really helps quarterbacks getting in those situations where Mac understands that, hey, I don't have to make that tough throw in the red zone. I can check it down or throw it away. And, we got another down coming up. We got another series coming up, and our defense can go and handle it so that we get the ball back without them scoring.
So I look at the AFC right now, and it's up for grabs, right? If the Chiefs win today, they've won 3 in a row. If they beat the Cowboys, can we say that they're back and they're the clear favorite? Buffalo has issues. Tennessee has issues. I don't know what to make of the AFC North right now because each week, the Steelers just tied Detroit in one of the worst games I've ever watched at the end of that game. I know it was raining, but that was just painful. So I'm saying if the Chiefs win today, they're the clear favorite to get back to the AFC Championship.
I don't know. Can you really? Yeah, if they win, they're playing the Cowboys. Somebody told me it was the preview for the Super Bowl, and I'm like, I don't believe that. the Cowboys are good, but it seems like there's something that always falls apart with them. And the Chiefs, they had such a poor beginning. If they come back and win 3 in a row, it's definitely a step up. But I don't know if it's a Super Bowl team because they still have to play the Ravens and some other teams that will make the playoffs. And I think they're all good. Anybody can win and lose any week. And I think barring injuries, that the Chiefs will be pretty good. I think Patrick Mahomes looks way more comfortable than he did at the beginning of the season. He's playing a lot better. And that's a big indicator of how the Chiefs will do moving forward.
Gus, I have this argument all the time on social media because people will say, oh, it's a team game. I'm like, yeah, it's a team game, but the quarterback position right now is, and for several reasons. One, most teams don't huddle up anymore. You would go into a huddle. If you played today, would you just drool at the idea of throwing 40 times a game on a normal week?
Sometimes, yeah. If you have a great line in front of you, but if you don't have a great line in front of you, you're looking at getting knocked on your cannon 20 times, and that's not fun either. But right. I think that, you go out and throw. I've thrown it that many times in a game before, and it's a lot of fun. And when you have good receivers and you have a good offense, great things can happen. But when things aren't clicking and you got to throw it, 40 times because you're behind and your team's not very good, it's not a lot of fun.
All right. So speaking of quarterbacks, there's a narrative here. I say this all the time. Doc Rivers always seems to get a pass because he won with the Celtics that one year with Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen. But Doc Rivers has gotten swept in playoffs. He's been the higher seed and they've lost. There are narratives about certain teams, certain players. There's a narrative about Carson Wentz now that he hasn't been playing well. He had one bad game, Gus, against the Titans where he threw 2 interceptions. He has 17 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. His passer rating is almost 100. He's managing the game. Why is there so much criticism of Carson Wentz? Because he was the golden child before he got hurt, and that they had to come in with the backup to win a Super Bowl. But Carson Wentz is having a very good year.
It's all this. It's still going to be a W, right? And so people expect a lot out of Carson because he came over, and I think that he's still going to be able to win. Last week they were up 10 at halftime, and they almost blew it. And even though that's a lot on defense, people will look at the quarterback no matter what. It's like if you throw a ball, it goes right through the receiver's hands, hits off a chest, and it gets intercepted. It's still an interception. So they expect Carson also to be that leader, and the W is the most important thing, which he did get last week. But I think that also goes to playing conservative, right? When you get that big lead, a lot of coaches want to play conservative. And the one thing you notice about Tom Brady, he rarely plays conservative when they get the big lead, right? If you win by 20 or 40, what's the difference? But when you go and say, okay, we're just going to play prevent defense, we're going to hope they'll score again, that usually kicks you in the can in the end. So I don't know if that's a little bit of what Frank Reich's doing along with Carson, because you said his stats are really good, but it's just like there's still a little something missing that the people don't have enough confidence. And I don't think it's necessarily the stats. It's they're very worried that he makes the wrong decision in a big moment.
Right, in a big moment. That's fair enough. Yeah, that's definitely fair enough. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the Packers right now, because the only time I've ever seen a Hall of Fame quarterback have to really change his game to win was John Elway with Terrell Davis. And Terrell Davis to this day is the last leading rusher in the NFL to win a Super Bowl, which shows you how, you don't have to have that stud running back. But John Elway was at the tail end of his career. What Matt LaFleur is doing now with Aaron Rodgers still in his prime is saying, hey, we're going to pound the ball. We're going to be physical. And yes, when we need Rodgers to win it, he can. But this team's identity has totally changed. And the last time I saw that was with an aging quarterback in John Elway, and they said, we're going to give it to Terrell Davis. Are you shocked at how Matt LaFleur has changed the identity of this team? Because they are now physical on offense. They're in the top 5 in almost every defensive category. And I know Aaron Jones is going to miss a few weeks, but they're physical on offense, which they used to be a finesse team.
Well, I think about what you said about Rex Ryan. He said, we're going to pound the football, we're going to be tough, and we're going to run the football. And I don't think that's necessarily what this is, right? This is, we're going to be physical, right? We're going to run the football, but we're going to be physical. We're going to get our linemen downhill. We're going to put pressure on the defense. And he knows he has a great quarterback. So if they run the ball twice and they're still 3rd and 8, they know that they got one of the top guys ever throwing the football. And he's calm, he's cool, he's poised, he knows where to go with the ball, and he gets guys to play harder. So I think he really wanted to see them build that physical side into the game. And now that they have that, it's a great mix for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I'm just shocked that, it's been so seamless. Normally a quarterback, Aaron Rodgers looks to have, other than that week or two where, the COVID issue, he looks like the happiest he's ever been on the football field, because he's like, you know what? I don't have to do it all.
Well, yeah, and that goes, with the team they have, the line they put together. They had some question marks coming into the season, and a lot of them were about Aaron and these other guys that you're showing on screen, and the linemen. Everybody that they have is stepping it up and playing physical. When you get your receivers to block downfield, when you get your linemen blocking, it's tough to play offensive line. These defensive linemen are quick, fast, they move around, and they have a couple running backs who aren't afraid. They can break it, but they're not afraid to stick their nose in it either. Yeah,
a great point about not being afraid to stick their nose in it. Talking with Gus Frerotte here live on the Full Monty Sports Show. Make sure to check out his Huddle Up with Gus show. Very entertaining. Gus, got a couple more questions here. We're going to bring Rico and George on right now just to talk about the AFC North. I know Rico always gets excited, even though I think he's having breakfast right now while I put him on camera. And Rico, you're on mute, so you could take yourself off mute. And that is a definitely nice little shirt you're wearing, Rico. Who dressed you this morning?
Well, I figured I'd take a shower for the show since Gus was going to be on. I didn't want to,
What are you eating, Rico?
I was actually eating a bagel thin. I didn't know I was coming on so quick. I logged in, and all of a sudden Monty threw me on.
What's a bagel thin?
Well, it's like it's like for somebody who acts like they're on a diet, it's like a bagel, but it's thinner.
Wait,
It's
where are
like-
you from?
Well, now
He's
I
from
live
New
in Los
Jersey.
Angeles, Gus. I'm in LA.
Yeah.
It's like,
Wait, I didn't know they made bagel thins in New Jersey and New York. I
no,
thought
they
that was
don't. They
illegal.
don't. You get called a lot of bad names if you eat a bagel thin in New Jersey. So, but in LA, it's totally, like if you're not on a diet in LA, people look down on you. So I gotta, get
Well,
part of
maybe
it.
you should move to Pittsburgh. You can have a regular bagel there.
Oh God, I love Pittsburgh. When I'm in
He could,
Pittsburgh,
listen,
I'm everywhere.
his wife's family's from Pittsburgh. He's there all the time.
I'll be in Pittsburgh in 10 days. Not even.
Yeah, go to my buddy Gussie. It's called Gussie's. It's in University of Pittsburgh, right across from the campus, and he makes incredible bagels. It's a cross between New York and Montreal.
Gussie.
I actually told Rico
That's an
this.
easy one I can remember.
Yeah. I actually told Rico this, and Gus, I said this the first time you were on. I read an article where Pittsburgh was ranked 10th in restaurants in the country. So over the last few years, they've really infused a lot of big-time chefs and restaurants there. So the nightlife in Pittsburgh is up and coming.
Yeah, the restaurants used to be way better. I think the pandemic hurt a lot because they lost a lot of employees. A lot of places shut down. But I think it'll be coming back over the next couple of years. We just went to a new place called Station last night. It was incredible. And chefs come from all over, and it's like the new hotspot for chefs from New York and Philly and all that coming over here. But it'll still never be New York and Philly, but we're trying.
Listen, you don't have to be. You don't have to be. All right. So I brought Rico on because I want to talk about the AFC North. This division, to me, I still Lamar Jackson's not playing today. I still think the Ravens are the best team. Rico, that performance last week must have made you sick to your stomach. What is going on with this division? Who's the best team in the division right now? Is it still the Ravens, Gus?
Well, I'd have to say it's tough. Without Lamar Jackson, it's not. With Lamar Jackson, it is. And I think that if he can come, why isn't he playing tonight? I didn't hear.
It's not COVID. He's got a really bad flu. He hasn't practiced. He's sick as a dog.
Well, I mean, if he wasn't sick, he'd
know what
probably
that
still
means.
play. Yeah, I mean, even Big Ben is taking a private jet to play against the Chargers because he got off the COVID list, didn't practice all week. So that can happen. But it's now it's getting to be a wacky division. We thought Browns were going to have, be up there. They've been hot and cold. The Steelers, I don't know what the Steelers are. They're not going to have Minka Fitzpatrick. They're not going to have I don't know if Watt's playing tonight. So, it's just going to be interesting to see. And you never know about the Bengals, right? They could come in, they could throw 6 touchdowns, and they could come in and not even score. So it's all confusing to me with this division. And if I had to pick one right now to come out on top, I would probably say the Ravens.
Rico, you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with I mean, it was funny coming into the season. We thought this division was going to be so special, so competitive. If Cincinnati could step it up a little bit, this was going to be. It's turned into the complete opposite. This division has become like, just watching the games last week, I was like, wow, what has happened to this division? And I mean, with Lamar, Gus, imagine back in your day if you told your coach you had the flu. Hey, coach, I don't think I can play. I got the flu. Yeah, okay. I'm sure that would work.
Well, yeah, I don't know how that happened. Like, even with the flu, Lamar's probably going to play better. No offense against the backup, but he's still going to play better than the backup. And we've seen, you've heard stories about Michael Jordan playing with the flu and all that. And you just kind of chug fluids. You're going to be sick. Do an IV. Get yourself ready before the game and go out. And even if you just have to hand off most of the game, you know what I mean?
Even if you're there as a decoy.
Right. You're going to have more. Your team is going to be behind you more. And they're going to. And so I can't believe that they're not putting more pressure on him to play. So we'll see what happens.
All right, Gus, got a couple more minutes with you. Then we're going to talk about No Huddle with Gus. Huddle Up with Gus. We're going to bring on George Lopez right now because he obviously follows the Rams, writes about the Rams. So walk me through this, Gus. Stafford over the last 2 weeks has looked awful. Now, I know he's played against 2 defensive teams, but how hard or how easy is it for a veteran quarterback to lose confidence? Because when Matthew Stafford gets rolling, he can complete 12, 14 out of 16. So do you think after these 2 games, his confidence is shattered?
I don't think it's shattered. I think it's wavered a little bit, but I think that, he's still a veteran. He's played a lot of games, and I think that Matthew Stafford needs to come back and just resettle into simplistics, right? He's trying to do too much. He's like last week, we saw the first interception was just trying to do too much and get OBJ the ball. And I don't know if that was just drilled into his head or he wanted to do that, but if I'm the coach, to be honest, I'm saying, okay, we're going to change it up. He's not having a great time. We need to get his confidence back. Let's run the ball. We might not be great at it, but let's try to be as best we can. Let's run the ball, give him some play action throws where guys can be one-on-one, stuff that he can get out of his hand without a lot of pressure, because it seems lately too that the pressure has been bothering him a little bit and he's making errant throws, and that's not like Matthew Stafford.
George, what's the talk here? If anyone could right the ship with a quarterback who struggled, it's Sean McVay, right? Has he come out and wavered, or has he criticized his quarterback at all? Has he said he needs to play better, or has it been even keel, like, hey, we believe in this guy?
No, he hasn't done anything like that. He'll come out always, and until last year he did it with Goff. I have to do a better job, put him in better situations. Stafford, the only interception I really questioned was that first one against Tennessee when he just flung instead of taking the safety. The second one against Tennessee, I was at that game, and that safety broke on Robert Woods before Robert Woods broke out of his route. He knew it was coming. And last week, Higbee drops a ball that he shouldn't have dropped. So I don't put a blame on that interception on Stafford. But, Gus is right. The pressure's been getting to him because they hadn't been hitting him for most of the season. And the last couple of weeks have been getting to him. I mean, Tennessee's defensive line beat the hell out of the Rams' offensive line. It was a pathetic showing by that offensive line. And San Francisco, again, last week, punched them in the mouth. They were more physical than the Rams.
Well, George, but we know this going in. Gus earlier said he used to love playing against the Raiders, and he would hate playing against Tennessee because there was just something about them. Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, all part of the same coaching tree, but it almost seems like the way the 49ers beat them, you saw in the start of the second quarter, they started to put 7-8 guys in the box because they were getting pounded. Why aren't the Rams ever adjusting at the start of the game to the dominance that the 49ers have towards the running game? It's like they have no answers.
Agreed. That was one thing in a group text with my uncles and my cousins. We were screaming about how they're getting punched in the mouth. There's no adjustment. Morris finally went to a 4-down lineman set, but I still don't think he put him in the right position. That was my concern with Morris, because a lot of games that Atlanta lost last year, they blew late with the defense, and Morris was the defensive coordinator. So I was a little concerned. To me, he just didn't make the correct adjustments. He might have gone to a 4-down lineman set, but Gus, if I'm correct, you're supposed to be able to run against a 4-down lineman set.
Well, yeah, unless they have 8 in the box, they bring a safety down, and then you're supposed to pass. But sometimes you rely on that 4-down lineman. Like, I mean, obviously they have one of the best D linemen in the league, or it's not the greatest D lineman in the league. So they put a lot of pressure on him, and he gets double teamed a lot. So it leaves opportunities for other guys to be singled up, and they should be making plays. And I don't know if Von Miller was ready to play last week. I think he came over and he didn't look like the normal Von Miller that you see. So yeah, they got pushed around by that run game of San Francisco. And I think that they were a little nervous about San Francisco's receivers, and San Francisco knew that. And so they were able to run the ball better against them.
I got to say, there used to be a commercial in the 80s and 90s that says, when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. I've never seen Rico more focused and paying attention to a guest than when Gus talks. It's unbelievable.
He doesn't want to bring that thin sliced bagel up in front of us, or he would be eating it.
All right, Gus.
Well, you know what? Hold on. Rico, I've lived in California my whole life. I've never touched a bagel.
George, you live in I live in Los Angeles. You live in a different part of California than me.
So basically, what Rico's saying there is, George, he's high society on the borderline of Beverly Hills.
Listen, George goes to more football games at that stadium than I can even. Pittsburgh's playing there tonight, and I'm not going. I don't got the juice George does. I don't know what George does. I have no idea what George does, but George.
Hey, I've only been there once. I'm only going life.
I heard George is sitting with Eric Dickerson tonight, so.
All right, Gus, thanks so much for coming on. Let's talk about your show, Huddle Up with Gus. Different times on during the day, right? Are you starting to figure out what's the best time to be on? How do you want to move forward with that?
Yeah, so we're going to try and do the same time every week. Our podcast comes out every Monday morning, but we're doing a live show with Facebook on a platform of theirs called Super Events. And so Super is just like we're doing now, but I can bring guests on. So when you have a guest on, I can bring them on live. They can ask the question themselves. We can take a selfie with them. So Super Events is a great place to do a live show. So if you do it the same time every week, and we've been doing it for a few months, so we're trying to figure out what the best time is when we can get our fans and the fans of our guests to come on and watch the show and also interact live with us and ask questions and do all that. Just kind of like what you do. It's just a different way to bring people on.
No, it's a highly entertaining show. Athletes, actors, very funny. I keep asking you this, and you keep, you say, who has been your favorite guest so far?
Besides,
oh my gosh.
eventually me.
Yeah, we're gonna do a complete bagel show. No, I mean, I've had so many. It's so hard. Like I just reached out to Mike Wilbon and James Brown the other day and see if they would come back on at some point, which those guys were amazing. I've had incredible guests from females to males. And like you said, everybody. I just had this week, I interviewed Ross Greenberg. He's the one that produced the movie Miracle.
Yeah.
He's also produced Hard Knocks. He produced 24/7. You name it, he's done it. And just amazing. He did the movie 61. If you guys ever saw that,
Love that movie.
Yeah.
With
Mickey Mantle. Yep.
with Billy Crystal. Wanted to do that movie.
Yeah.
So he was just an incredible guest, and everybody who comes on is amazing to me. And Doug Flutie was fun. He's coming out this Monday, his podcast. But Doug and I never really met. We played against each other for a long time. He's a little older than I am. But it was so nice to get to know another guy besides meeting him at like some alumni meeting or whatever, but bringing him on, getting to know a little bit about his life, getting to ask questions where they're not kind of contrived or anything. It's just a flow. It's just a conversation. And that's what I love best. So Doug was great. And, for me, I've watched Doug play a lot. I did not realize until I started researching him that he is the greatest Canadian football player in the Canadian Football League, the greatest player ever. He was just voted out a couple of years ago. So what an honor, that he could go play there. He's played in 3 different leagues. So it's amazing. And just everybody I have on is incredible.
It's amazing how the NFL has evolved so much. And if the NFL was kind of like it was there, Warren Moon would have never went to the Canadian Football League. Doug Flutie was Kyler Murray before Kyler Murray. Like the numbers that these guys, but it was like, oh, they're too small. They're not pure passers. There was too many question marks. But Doug Flutie in Canada is like a god there, right?
Oh, yeah. Everybody talks about him. What he did, I think it was 6 straight MVPs he won. And so, which was amazing. But you look at what he did in college and all the awards he won. Obviously, he won the Heisman and what I think a leadership and what a talent he was around with the other guys. Because if you think of Boston College, they probably didn't have the greatest talent compared to a Miami, but somehow they would always win these huge games. And I think it was all because of Doug's leadership.
All right, Gus, we love having you on. Is it true you're going to be coming on every 2 weeks for the rest of the season?
Yeah, let's do it. We're gonna
absolutely
be
love having you on.
So
look at Rico. If this is what it takes to get Rico to shower and get dressed up for the show, I'm all for it.
Well, you know what? We have 2 weeks. I might have to send Rico a good bagel.
Yeah, Gus, you might not have to send it too far. I might be meeting you down there.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah, George, good luck today with those Rams.
They're actually off this week. Thank God
they're off this week. Well, then you don't need luck. You're going to feel pretty good this week. You don't have to.
Yeah, I know they won't lose this week.
So wait, who's your secondary team then, George?
Really? It's crazy when the Raiders and the Rams both left LA. I went to more Raider games. Most of my friends are Raider fans, so hey, we're going to San Diego for a game. Come up to Oakland. We're going to go to Chicago. I'm like, I told you, Chicago, I'm there.
Well, how do you feel about them leaving Oakland and going to Vegas?
I think they should have stood in Oakland.
I wish
they would have worked. No, get out of that hellhole of a stadium. But I think they belong in Oakland.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm just going to tell you, I'm just going to tell you guys this, and we'll end with Gus this. When the Jets had a bye week, Zach Wilson threw an interception. I don't know how that's possible, but it happened. So I'm not a Zach Wilson fan, as you could probably know. All right, Gus, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thanks a lot. Great job. Make sure to watch this show. Huddle Up with Gus. He's just an encyclopedia of knowledge. Great stories, too. Rico, you could probably meet him sometime when you go to Pittsburgh.
I hope so. I've been trying to push that for the last that's been my agenda for the last 3 weeks.
Well, I think he was looking up.
Rico, he's off the air. You can breathe now.
Yeah. I think he was looking up how to get a restraining order.
Look at
that. Gus leaves and Rico starts drinking coffee, taking bites of his stuff. So, all right, whatever. All right, George, let's continue this conversation. What is going on with the Rams? They've lost 2 in a row. They don't look good at all.
Well, I'm going to say 2 numbers from Monday night, 46-10. 46 pass attempts, 10 rushing attempts. And I've said this on the show many times. The Rams offense, that quarterback puts up tremendous numbers, is predicated on the running game. If they're not running the ball, they're beatable. And McVay got away from the running game. Granted, the score kind of dictated that, but he should have stood with a running game because they were averaging 5 yards a carry. If they could have stood with a running game, they would have been able to grind it out, and that would have kept San Francisco's offense off the field.
But, George, this is my whole point, too. Like, we've seen this with the Packers now, right? They stick with the running game. We know Tennessee always stuck with the running game. You're averaging over 4 yards per carry. Your defense is gassed. Why are you not running the ball? Why are you trying for a quick score? I don't like to question him because I think he's a very good offensive coach, but sometimes he gets in his own way, and it's almost like he tries to become Andy Reid and becomes pass happy.
Well, I actually, instead of Andy Reid, because it's a Ram, I actually said sometimes he turns into Mike Martz because Mike Martz was pass happy. And he gets that way sometimes, and he's got to stick with the running game. I think for the Rams to be really successful, Stafford has to throw no more than 35 passes a game. 25 to 30, I think, would be ideal, and they can get the running backs 20 to 25 touches. That team's going to be unbeatable.
All right, let's give a big shout-out to Laura, our friend. She's been gone for a while. She's back. She's obviously making fun of my shirts, and so some things never change. All right, Rico, look, where are we at with the Steelers? You tied. I mean, Rico, at the end of that game, I know it was raining, snowing, but Rico, that had to be the ugliest fourth quarter in overtime I've ever seen.
I got to tell you, I knew it was going to be a tie because the game it reminded me of when we played Cleveland 2 years ago. It was like when they first started off the season. It was literally Giovanni's first football game he ever saw was Pittsburgh versus Cleveland that ended in a rain-filled tie. It was terrible. I mean, I really had high hopes for Mason. I thought he played a good game last year in Cleveland at the end of the season. So I was kind of excited. I just didn't realize he was playing. He played like a college quarterback, throwing up 50-50 balls. You can't. You can do that sometimes in the NFL, but you can't live on that in the NFL.
Rico, what's the upside? What's the upside to Mason Rudolph? Why do they love this guy? I don't see it.
I don't see it either. He's a good-looking guy, I guess. I don't know. I have no idea. I can't put my finger on it.
Why are they so high on him?
I do not know. I think it's not that they're so high on him. I don't think that they have whoever else is behind him. Haskins is just not as good, or I don't know. I'm boggled because I made it a big. I was kind of excited. I was like, here we go. This could be this is a big game for him, and and he choked, and it was just, and the whole team choked too. They came in with their heads up their butts. They weren't really playing.
Did they overlook them, Rico? Did they overlook the Detroit Lions?
You know what? I really, really, really would like to believe that, but I just don't think. I think they just play their competition. I think they scrap. All their wins have been scrappy wins. They just get by. You know what I'm saying? It always comes to the last series that they need to stop somebody.
It's never easy. It's never easy.
It's never
easy. I'm glad they're playing the Chargers because the Chargers never make it easy either.
Rico, Pittsburgh they play down to their level of competition. Instead of putting the foot on the throat, and I don't get that. That doesn't seem like a Mike Tomlin type of team.
It's very. You're right. That isn't. But you can't say that. I've seen this before through the Steelers where they've played down to their, even when they were
They
good.
lost to the Jets a few years ago. They went into New York. That's the last time I bet. It was like 3 or 4 years ago. I bet $100 on a 2-team parlay, and the Steelers were one of them, and they lost to the crappy-ass Jets.
And all they had to do was win outright.
Yeah, all they had to do was win outright because they were like a 10-point favorite or like a 9-point favorite. They had to win by like 1 point.
George, so Monte, I got to tell you a story. So last week I got hammered on Twitter and from a few different people because I called it the wrong week.
Yes.
I got hammered throughout the week. It was Wednesday. I'm like, yo, it's Wednesday. Let it go, man. All right. I said weekday by accident.
Andrea just said Rico. Do you know? Because Rico go, what week we in 8?
Yeah. Listen, between gambling and my fantasy football teams, things are a mess. My life is upside down. Like, kids doing great, house is in order, bills are being paid. My fantasy team's upside down. I can barely wake up in the morning.
It just shows you. Thank God you have a strong partner because you're so mentally frail. Like, thank God she takes care of those things. Because if your fantasy football is breaking you down emotionally, you should not be watching that kid more than an hour a day.
My teams are just teams of people on IR. Because I can't drop them because it's terrible.
I don't know what to do because everyone
it's ruining my fantasy teams.
We have Kamara, I have Chubb. Like, this is Rico and I went top heavy. And again, no one gives a rat's ass about our fantasy football team. But Rico and I drafted 4 running backs in a 2-quarterback league, and we're in first. But this week, 2 of our running backs are out. So it's and George, I don't want to say anything, but I beat you in nuts and bolts sports fantasy football, and I'm in first place. So what's going on with your team?
I don't want to say anything, but
yeah, I'm in. I was 4-1 at one point. Now I'm on a 5-game losing streak. I lost Derrick Henry. I lost Robert Woods. I had Russell Wilson, and I didn't start him last week because I figured he was going to have a crappy game in Green Bay, and thank God I didn't start him.
You're right.
But I had a chance going into Monday night. I got the Rams defense, and I had Matt Gay as my kicker. I got a shot, and we saw what happened.
And my friend Andrea, she has Russell Wilson, Derrick Henry, George Kittle. Like, she's gotten so, like, I look at her fantasy team, it's like IR, questionable. It's the worst. And this is the last thing we'll say about fantasy football. I think that they should change the rules. And what they should do, instead of having individual running backs, for example, instead of taking Ezekiel Elliott, I take the Dallas Cowboys rushing yards. I take the Cleveland Browns instead of taking Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt. I take the New Orleans Saints instead of Kamara. What do you guys think about that proposition for fantasy football? Because everything is a 2-set running back now. For example, if I have Aaron Jones right now, I have to sit him. But wouldn't it be great if you just had the Green Bay Packers? Because now you have A.J. Dillon.
Yeah,
I'm a purist.
Rico, stop.
I think that would be interesting. I don't see it ever happening, but it would be interesting.
Rico, you're a purist and a traditionalist. That means the Giants would have never played New England because there was no wild card. The Steelers wouldn't have won a Super Bowl that year when when they beat the Colts and went to win on the Super Bowl. Yeah, no, I'm just saying, don't say you're a purist because the NFL has changed and evolved. 2-point conversions, 17 games, wild card.
Fantasy-wise, I'm a purist.
Okay.
Just because what? It changes every. It would. It's actually it would be a cool wrinkle if a league did that. It really would be. I would totally join a league. I'll join any league. Who am I?
All right. So I have my top 2 right now in the NFC. I have the Packers number 1. Even though I think they're going to lose today, I have the Cowboys number 2. George, who are your top 2 in the NFC?
Well, I definitely have Green Bay up there. I think if Dallas can go into Kansas City with the number of players they're missing and beat them, I would put them at number 2. But right now, I still have Arizona at number 2.
Rico, who do you got?
I'm on the Cowboy bandwagon, baby. I think the Cowboys are looking great. I think even though they're going to be shorthanded today, I think they beat KC. Green Bay and Cowboys are the teams to beat.
Okay, all right. So you guys agree with me.
Arizona showed their flaw. On this. Their flaw is.
I will say this though:
if you stop Kyle Murray, you're going to win.
But I will say this: They say offense doesn't travel. 5 road games for Arizona, they scored over 30 points or more. So that offense travels. That offense is, when Kyler Murray's in there, they score points, and I do think they beat Seattle. Okay.
But,
so,
it doesn't look like Murray might play today.
I know, he
It's a
might not
game time
play.
decision. So I actually took Seattle in this game with going off Murray not playing and Hopkins being out.
Okay, so who do we like in the AFC? My top 2 in the AFC right now, I have Kansas City and the Ravens. Rico.
I have Kansas City. Even though I don't want to say Kansas City because I think it's just their time. They're going to start rolling. And the Bills. The problem with the Ravens is that we keep forgetting that they have a real, and they've been lucky. They've been lucky with their running back situation. It's been working. There's a time and a place where I feel like that will come down. That'll stop working, and you'll have to, and relying on just Lamar Jackson will bite them sooner or later.
All right, but Rico, we could say the same thing about the Bills. You cannot go into Jacksonville and lay an egg. I've been telling you guys all this. I don't even know what the Bills are doing at the running back position. They're so reliant on the passing game. Like, this team, to me, is just not elite.
Yeah, but you're overlooking their defenses have been playing well. Again, their running game with Moss is a little bit of a mess, but they haven't had to rely on it. So it's not. You can't say that they're not using it. They just haven't needed it. They haven't needed it as much.
Rico, you cannot say you're an elite team when you go into Jacksonville and you score 6 points.
But then again, we talk about teams playing down to other teams. The Bills aren't immune to that. They're not immune to
Look at my friend Andrea wrote. I feel like the whole league is a game time decision. All right, George. Can Cam Newton lead this team to the playoffs? They are in the top 3 in defensive passing categories. They're only letting up 19 points a game. This team defensively is good. We had a Robbie Anderson sighting last week, finally, who had over 100 catches last year. What do you think about Cam Newton, Carolina making the playoffs?
They don't need Cam Newton to lead them to the playoffs. They just need him to manage the game. It's not the same Cam Newton that was the MVP a few years ago. They're going to rely on their defense. And I think their defense got actually better when Gilmore started to play for them.
Yeah, good point.
Once he came back and they started playing better, if they keep McCaffrey healthy, that's the key. The guy never stays healthy. All they need is Cam Newton to manage the game.
Okay.
Do enough to win.
Rico, the Giants are 3-6. I said this early on, everyone's trying to tell me that Joe Judge was good. He's a terrible coach, okay? He's 6-10, 3-6. The Jets are in disarray. You're from New Jersey. You keep in touch with those people. I think the last time you were at a Giant game, you were on field level. I don't know how that happened. I don't know what type of prison work release program lets you go on the field. So if you had to take one of these teams over the next 2 or 3 years, I think Zach Wilson's a total bust. I think Robert Saleh's a terrible coach in that division. I'm taking the Giants.
No, I wouldn't agree with you there. I would take the Jets. I don't think that Wilson. I don't think he's a bust. I think he's just young and he's just in that. You remember when Cleveland went through it, where no matter who they put at quarterback, they just kept it. Just wasn't working out for them.
Right, and that's why I'm saying in part why he's a bust, and that's why I'm saying at least over the last 25 years, there's more stability in the Giants front office than there is with the Jets. The Jets have one of the worst owners in the NFL other than Detroit Lions. That's why I'm saying I'm taking the Giants.
Well, it's so funny. I was looking at this. I was looking at them both the other day, and I was like, I can't remember ever when a city had 2 teams that were this bad. And never mind a city, New York City, on top of that. And I see the Jet. You know why? Because at the end of the day, the Giants, they're losing everybody. They're whatever pieces that they had, they have less pieces to put together to make a future, in the sense where the Jets still have some young guys on there. They're going to be getting some draft picks. I feel like the Jets have more of what a future, what a team that's bad has to hold to show.
I couldn't disagree more. What in their history has shown that the Jets, who haven't been to a Super Bowl since 1969, has a pedigree where they can rebuild the team?
Well, I don't know. Tony Romo still thinks Zach Wilson's great.
Tony Romo said Zach Wilson will be the next Patrick Mahomes next year. That's what he said.
But I have to agree with Rico. I think it's too soon to say Zach Wilson's a bust. It's only been half a season. It's way too soon to say he was a bust.
And you know what? It is too soon. But I have had
We could have said the same thing about Peyton Manning. He went 1-15.
Wait.
Same with
Hey,
what I'm saying. You know, he was a great college quarterback and
wait.
1-15.
Time out. Peyton Manning had his dad. Peyton Manning was a god in Tennessee. Zach Wilson played at a small school, never really played anyone, never had tremendous success. He comes to New York, okay, and he's been terrible. He led the league in interception. For one game, Mike White comes in, and the Jets put up 30-something points. Zach Wilson, I've watched him play. He's terrible.
Well, how many interceptions did Peyton Manning throw his rookie year?
But again, Peyton Manning –
But I've seen great college quarterbacks. Matt Leinart had 3 losses in his whole college career at USC, and he was a bust in the NFL. There's no guarantee.
But Josh Allen is his rookie year. Troy Aikman with Dallas, I think he only won.
He was 1-15.
You question Josh Allen. Everyone you're mentioning was an absolute stud in college. Everyone.
Yeah, and again,
Zach Wilson wasn't.
Josh Allen last year.
Zach Wilson wasn't.
You questioned Josh Allen. He threw 50% in Wyoming.
Yes,
and look what he's doing in the NFL.
And again,
he did question Josh Allen, and he said the
100%.
Josh Allen.
100% because he went to Wyoming, but Josh Allen is also 6'5", 235, and has a cannon of an arm. And a lot of that has to do with coaching, guys. What the Bills have done with Josh Allen has been amazing. Robert Saleh is a defensive-minded coach. He's the worst coach in that division. You're going up against Bill. These are all the reasons I'm saying he's going to be a bust. He has the 4th best coach in that division because, let's face it, Miami's starting to turn it around. The Bills have a great coach. Bill Belichick's not retiring soon. The Jets always pick bad draft picks. There's nothing in New York for Zach Wilson to succeed. That's why he's going to be a bust. And save this comment, save this episode. Zach Wilson is a bust. I'll say it now. As long as he plays for New York, he will never be an elite quarterback.
You know what's made the Rams successful under Sean McVay? They don't have first-round draft picks. They have a group that knows how to scout college players, and they find those blue chips in the later rounds. That's what the Jets need to get. They need to get guys who know how to evaluate college players, smaller schools that they're going to be hungry, and you can do that. You'll get the right players into that mix.
But again, you have to have leadership, ownership. The Jets don't have that. For example, the Patriots spent a ton of money on scouting and all that stuff. The Rams do. The Jets don't. The Jets have like the nephew of the owner who goes to like a Montclair State game. Rico will know that reference. And he'll be like, hey, this guy's Division III, but maybe he can play for us. All right, let's move on here. George, can the 49ers be a legitimate playoff team?
They can be. They stay healthy. And at beginning of the year, I said the division was going to come down between the Rams and the Niners. I didn't expect Arizona to take off the way they did. San Francisco's had a lot of injuries this year, and they're starting to get healthy. Yeah, I think they can go on a serious run right now and push for a wildcard spot.
Rico, is this the time where the Tampa Bay Bucks start to roll late November, December? Is this the time where they start rolling, Rico?
Well, this is the time where everybody expects them to start rolling. This is the time where everybody's going to bet them to start rolling, which I don't think that they will start rolling. They're so dangerous once they get to the playoffs. It's just tough to, Tom Brady, that's their goal is get to the playoffs. Tom Brady's, they're in that same zone where the Patriots were with Tom Brady in the sense of like, we know we're getting to the playoffs. Let's not burn the bridges and make every game about, that particular must-win game. Like, let's not put our best.
And let's be honest, they've won playoff games on the road. They don't care about playing at home.
No, that's what I'm saying. But they're not going to be showing their cards. They're going in. Let's not forget when in New England, they knew they were making the playoffs, and they didn't. They kept a very basic playbook towards the end of the season. I see the same thing happening, and I don't think that just betting wise, I think that a lot of people are going to be betting for this big role going into the playoffs, and I don't think that's going to happen there.
You know what was different this year compared to last year? Last year, they were relatively healthy. They didn't really lose anybody, and this year, they've lost a ton of players to injury. It's a big difference this year. They'll get in, but I'm not expecting that crazy run they had last year. I don't expect them to get to the championship game. I really don't.
Well, listen, the injuries are a big part of it, but I would never want to count out Tom Brady. All right, George. let's move to this. Look, it's not working. It's not going to work. The Lakers with Russell Westbrook are just terrible. I watched the game the other day, and I should have recorded it because Russell Westbrook has the ball at the top of the key. He has Davis to the left. He has someone else to the right there, and Carmelo, who just hit like 2 threes, is wide open. Russell dribbles, and shoots an off-balance 3, misses it. Another time he comes down, he drives between 2 or 3 people. I think Avery Bradley was wide open in the corner. As a point guard, he may make great passes, but he has no court vision. He can't defend anyone. I don't give a crap if he's putting up 20 points, 8 assists, 8 rebounds. This is a terrible fit, George. It's a terrible fit.
Yeah, the chemistry isn't there. The problem is the picture you just showed, you got 3 alpha males, and they all want to be the man. And
but Anthony Davis will take a back seat.
Yeah, Anthony Davis will take that back seat. Russell's always been the man on whatever team he was on. Even when he was playing with Kevin Durant, he was still the man there because Durant was barely starting to come into his own. Yeah, it's just the chemistry is not there. They have moments where they look great, and then they just come out flat in the third quarter. I'm still pissed off that they gave up 130 to the hated Celtics on Friday night. Yeah, that one. Anytime they lose to Boston, I get pissed.
And they started that game off playing pretty well, and then the second half was a disaster.
Yeah, what's getting me more is Frank Vogel's a defensive coach, and their defense has been non-existent.
They shouldn't be bad. They're very long. You look at their starting lineup; they're very long. And there are times where it's Dwight Howard, it's LeBron, it's Anthony Davis, it's Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony, and Carmelo Anthony has never been a great defender, but he at least has been trying this year. He's played well, and he's long. You're looking at 6'4", 6'9", 6'7", 6'9", 7 foot, and they're still getting beaten off the dribble, no rim protection. DeAndre Jordan doesn't even play that much anymore. What do they do? Are they going to make a trade?
Oh, I don't know if they're going to make a trade because they're up against the cap space. So I don't know if they can do that. But LeBron came out the other day and said they don't have an identity. Are they going to be small with AD playing the 5, or are we going to be big, where we could put AD at the 4? They haven't got that identity yet, and that's why they look like they're running through molasses. They're just it's frustrating. And LeBron came out. It's not a time to panic, but we do need a sense of urgency here. And I agree. They're 8-9. There's a lot of expectations because of all the players they picked up in this offseason. It is a frustrating period right now. I think they will get it together. They just got to find the right combination on the court. And Vogel's still trying to figure that out. And you brought this up earlier this year. I think they should put Russell in the second unit, which it won't happen, and when Rondo's healthy, let Rondo start at the point.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to happen. It'd be too much craziness with Russell.
Or just put LeBron back at the point like he did last year.
Agreed. Right? Yeah, and then we still haven't got Ariza. He hasn't played a game yet. We're missing none, so hopefully we'll get those guys back soon, and then we can see how we look defensively because Ariza is going to be our shutdown wingman.
Yeah. And Avery Bradley can still defend and shoot the 3. It's a bad situation. I'm surprised because usually LeBron's teams figure out their chemistry, and they do have solid pros there. Like you said, a Rondo, a Dwight Howard, Dwight Howard has been traveling around a lot, but Dwight Howard plays hard every night. Dwight Howard will play for 15 minutes. He'll get you 8.6 rebounds. But, yeah, this is a disaster. Russell Westbrook. Look at Washington. Washington is so much better getting those 3 guys that they got with Kyle Kuzma, KCP, and Montrezl Harrell when they traded for Russell Westbrook. Washington has dominated that trade. It's almost like the Lakers got robbed getting Russell Westbrook. It's a terrible fit. LeBron needs shooters. It's not going to work. Okay, Rico, something that's working. You're 7-3. 7 winning weeks, 3 losing weeks. I have Kansas City winning this game. George, before Rico makes the pick, who do you have winning this game, George?
I took Dallas. I think
what?
I took Dallas, and here's why. I think they're going to rely on Zeke and Pollard today, and they're just going to grind it out. They're going to keep Mahomes on the sideline. They'll look for Breastcock to throw for 400. Look for Dallas to run for about 20 yards.
We must be sharing the same brain because I feel the same. I feel the same way. I don't think KC's defense has a shot against the Cowboy offense in any way, shape, or form. And you know what? They'll just just run, keep them off the field.
Rico, but in all fairness, KC has won 3 straight games. They finally got their tight end and their wide receiver are now clicking. They're throwing over the middle. Patrick Mahomes is now taking what the defense gives him, and we're seeing Kelsey and Hill thrive now again. So you have no respect for the Chiefs is what you're saying.
No, but this potentially could be a game like when they played the Rams. You remember 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and the Rams, that big 50-point game, they both were scoring like crazy. This does have a potential to be that type of game. And even though my score, what I have is not that type, but it does have a potential to be that because the defense, like I said, both defenses are suspect. And
so you're taking the Cowboys to cover.
I'm taking the Cowboys to cover 32-28.
Let's look at this last week. They beat the Raiders. How were teams beating Kansas City? Playing that 2-high safety. And what did the Raiders do last week? They went single high. And the Horns feast on a single high safety defense.
All right, Rico. So I think Kansas City wins this game. You guys are both taking Dallas. I forgot another drinking game here. So go ahead. Cheers, everyone. All right, Rico, I know Mike is absolutely killing you because, every time you bet the Steelers, he goes crazy. He watches the show every Monday morning. So, Mike, when you're watching, shout out to you. Rico will put a little background up for you. We have the Chargers 5-4 hosting the 5-3-1 Steelers. The Chargers are a 6-point favorite.
I don't think Pittsburgh's going to win this game. I think the line changed because Ben's quarterback is back.
Oh, okay.
It's still a big one. I think it's eventually.
Let me check it.
What is it?
I'm going to check it right now.
Yeah, I don't think it's that big. I don't think it's still 6 anymore.
Okay.
But I think Pittsburgh loses, but I think they cover. So, I mean, Pittsburgh usually when they lose, they usually cover. They stay within the point spread, especially one this big. It is in Los Angeles. I will not be going to the game. I don't got the juice like George.
Hey, I'm only going to 2 games. I'm only going to 2 games.
Guys over there,
and I'm sitting in the 500 sections at that stadium. So
you need an oxygen mask. It's
the
down to a
alone
4-point spread.
$100. How do you even get into that? How do you find parking in that place?
Oh God, I parked at the Forum when I went to that Titan game.
Oh wow! I might as well just walk there from here then.
Oh, parking is crazy and expensive over there.
Rico, it's a 4-point spread.
Yeah, like I said, 4-point spread. I think Pittsburgh covers. I don't think they win the game.
Well, I think Harris is going to have a huge game because you can run on the Chargers
all day. All day. But Pittsburgh's defense is decimated. I don't know if TJ. I don't think TJ is going to be playing. I think he's too valuable for them to throw into.
Is Fitzpatrick out? Minka Fitzpatrick out?
Yeah, that's what Gus said. That Minka's not playing today.
Yeah.
Going into
he's having a good year. He's not having a Minka year.
Going into last week, the Chargers were last in rushing defense, which I don't understand because Staley's a defensive coach. That should never happen. All right, Rico, Washington football team 3-6 at the 5-5 Panthers. Now, I look at this game and I say a bad team beat a good team in Tampa Bay last week. They're going on the road. If I was going to bet the farm, which I don't have, I would say this is the easiest bet of the week because Carolina's going to maul them because they're coming off an emotional high beating Tom Brady. I have Carolina winning this game like 33-17.
I don't. I was all over Carolina myself, but I think Washington's going to get a little momentum. I think they're going to.
You don't think it's a letdown after beating Tom Brady in Tampa Bay going on the road?
Opposite. They just lost Chase Young. I think this team's going to step up a little bit, and I think they're feeling themselves. This is I know what you're saying with the letdown, but I feel like with Washington watching them last week, I think that they're going to start feeling themselves and play a little better. And you know what, Carolina, I don't know. I know their record, and I've been watching them. They look good, but there's something about them that they look so susceptible, and I feel like teams just aren't they're not attacking their weak points and their weak spots on that team. So I'm going with Washington, and I think Washington wins convincingly, 27-17.
Wow.
Whoa.
I know. I'm telling you, man. Everybody's like, the pick sounds right. Let's just play in a world what you two just did. The pick sounds almost too easy, right? It sounds almost too easy that it's Carolina.
To me, I'm just like they're a bad team, Washington.
3-point favorite. How could Carolina lose this game? You might as well just put the house on there, right? It sounds it sounds enticing. It sounds almost like
What's that saying, Rico? If something's too good to be true, it is.
It probably is.
You know, and also, I don't
everybody
think
thought Cleveland was going to blow out last week, and they barely they got crushed.
I think Ron Rivera is a hell of a coach, and I think he'll keep that team even keel. I don't think they'll have a letdown. I still think Carolina is going to beat them. Losing Chase Young, and I agree. I think Washington's defense has underperformed, but I just think Carolina's defense is playing a little bit better. They're going to take some stuff away that Heineke likes to do, and I don't think it's going to be a blowout. But I do have Carolina beating them by about 7.
I have Carolina blowing them out. All right, Rico. George can obviously guide you through this. I don't know what guidance you want. He was 4-1 in nuts and bolts sports, and he's on a tank. He's tanking. I don't know what George, did you try to make any trades? Did you try to pick anybody up?
Yeah, I ended up. Well, Russell went down. I picked up. I just picked up Kirk Cousins. I think he might have a game against.
Yeah.
Solid
and yeah, I picked up when Derrick Henry went down. I picked up a running back from Philly, and it's just been a bust. So,
all right, Rico, you're 4-5 against me. You have the first pick. I know where you're going here. You're taking Dak Prescott. Am I right?
I only have one name written down, and it's Dak Prescott.
We've been playing each other too long. I know your thought process. All right, so you're taking Dak Prescott. So my original thought here was to go kind of outside the box, and I wasn't going to take Mahomes because, I mean, he's been playing well lately. So I originally was going to take Ryan Tannehill against Houston. Right? Because Houston's offense is terrible. Ryan Tannehill is going to move the ball. But then, since Rico took Dak, I'm going to go head-to-head, and I'm going to take Mahomes. I'm going to take Mahomes because I'm going doubling up there because I'm taking Tyreek Hill.
Oh, wait. Well, are we going wide receivers first?
Oh, no, my bad. I'm taking McCaffrey.
All right, Rico. Now you know who you can steal from him.
Well, no, I'm gonna. I mean, how do I not take Jonathan Taylor, George? Right? How do I not take him?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Jonathan Taylor. I got to. There's no.
Yeah, I think he'll put up some numbers against Buffalo today.
I'm going to take Zeke to kind of combat you with Dak Prescott.
Well, because I'm gonna be watching the game, and I love it, and you know their defense, their run defense. I'm gonna take Najee tonight. You know, people are talking like he's gonna have this monster game. I always get worried when they talk like that, and I think that he's going to have a good game. But, you know, he's going to be in the mix. He's going to touch the ball 20 times tonight. Whether he gets 200 yards or 100 yards, he will touch that ball. He will get the volume that you look for in fantasy football.
Actually, Rico, I'm going to change my pick. I'm taking, instead of Zeke, I'm taking A.J. Dillon.
Okay.
All right. He's getting all the touches this week in Green Bay, so I'm taking him. So who's your wide receiver?
Well, Judge, should I take Hill? Should I really give it to him? Should I just take Tyreek Hill and give the? I don't even want Tyreek Hill. I'm just taking him just so every team is a touchdown.
Take him out of spite.
Yeah, I'm taking him purely out of spite. If I lose because of Tyreek Hill, I can live with that.
All right, I'm taking Devontae Adams because he's going to get 8 catches minimum.
I've been on this bandwagon. I might as well stick with it. I'm going to take Stephon Diggs.
Rico, I'm shocked that you have not taken CeeDee Lamb, or you have not taken Deebo Samuel.
No, I'm not crazy. I feel like Diggs is just a solid. You know the ball is getting thrown to him a ton of times. I'm more about volume. That's what I've learned the last few weeks.
I'm taking Deebo Samuel. And my tight end, you know, he's been playing really well lately. But my tight end, I just think at home against a Cincinnati defense that's not that great, I'm taking Waller.
Judge, should I take Travis Kelce?
I know Monte's been all Kansas City. There's clicking now with Kelce and Hill. You're raving about it, and then you dump on him.
I don't even want him, but I just feel like it would be such a nice play but I think Dallas is going to win. I'm going to actually go with Mark Andrews because I think they have nobody to throw to but Mark Andrews.
All right, Rico, you're 4-5 against me in fantasy football. Before we get to Rico's rant, George, how can we follow and support you?
Well, you guys can see my my Twitter handle right there, the other G Lopez. I know I got to get some articles up. I was thinking about one yesterday after that shellacking SC got put on them yesterday, giving up 66 points to UCLA.
George, that's got to sting, man. UCLA,
I am so
you know I'm a Chip
glad.
Kelly guy. I'm going to
Yeah.
get to Mario Cristobal in a minute, but that had to
Yeah.
be embarrassing.
Yeah, I'm so glad my son had a game yesterday, so I didn't go to that football game. It was embarrassing. I figured UCLA to beat them, but to put up 62 against them, oh yeah, the knife wound is still fresh.
Yeah, no.
So
all right, so
yeah.
is that your next article?
I think so. Talking about the demise of USC, but people need to think about this. Outside of Pete Carroll, when was USC relevant?
Yeah, in the last 20 years, you got that right.
You're talking about since the first tenure of John Robinson.
Yep.
Between that and Pete Carroll, yeah, they were winning, getting to the Rose Bowl, but that was it. And then after Pete Carroll, they've had moments, but nothing really. Yeah. So, yeah, they've had that one little stretch with Pete Carroll.
And they shouldn't, because let's be honest, California and Texas are the two best high school blue chip prospects to come out for football talent. And every kid in LA and California wants to play for USC, just like growing up kids want to play for Texas. That's why Ohio State always wins, because I lived in Ohio. Every kid dreams about playing for Ohio State. And I think it's ranked 4th in the best high school players in the country in Ohio. So you just recruit your state, you're fine. California should not be getting out-recruited by Oregon, by Utah, by Oregon State. USC should dominate that.
Problem was, Helton wasn't a great recruiter. Yeah, and he didn't know, and when he would get a 5-star player, he didn't know how to coach him.
Yeah, no, all good points.
I mean, like the opening weekend, Alabama, Clemson, and Georgia. Granted, JT Daniels transferred from USC to go to Georgia, but the 3 quarterbacks, all Southern California kids, playing for Alabama, Georgia, and Clemson. None of them considered USC.
Yeah.
Which
says a lot.
And look what Bryce Young is doing in Alabama. He had a hell of a game yesterday.
Yeah, it's Bryce Young.
I think that put him towards the top in the Heisman.
I think it's Stroud, because CJ Stroud, what he did against Michigan State, and then if Alabama loses to Georgia in the Georgia, he won't win it.
Yeah, I don't think Bama's going to be Georgia. I think Georgia's too balanced, too loaded this year. Yep. But I think he won't have a great game, but he'll have a good game. But it's Georgia's to win. I think Georgia's going to win it all this year.
All right, George. Love having you. See you in a couple weeks down the road.
All right, you guys, everybody have a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you too as well. All right, Rico, it is time for your rant. By the way, people texting me, Rico looks so styling today. Stylish.
Well, I had this. I put on that.
And you shaved your beard a little bit, right?
Yeah, I shaved the beard a little bit. I combed the hair. I knew Gus was going to be on. I don't want to. I gotta look. I gotta elevate my game. Gus and George at the same time. I mean, I jumped in the shower. I was up at 7:30. I was getting ready. I remembered it was week 11. Everything. I did my homework. I got my notes. I got everything down.
I like that. Although I still can't believe you're picking with the Washington football team.
I listen, by today, you know what you say? That guy's a genius.
All right.
He's a genius is what you're going to say tonight.
All right. What's your rant about?
Well, I had a rant, and then as George was talking, I just realized that I'm going to switch it up a little bit and just go into something from myself. I think that when we get into this whole football, I'm definitely letting it take over a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I'm letting it take over, and and I forget that it's sports. I should not be letting sports, whether it's gambling or fantasy football, pulling me away from everything else in life. And and Levi makes fun of me. He always talks about it. He's like, it determines my week. If I have a good
Come on, Rico. You're not 7 years old.
I'm not kidding. That's what I'm saying. At this age, I shouldn't have a bad Wednesday because what happened on Sunday. I'm above that. I know I am. I am so above that. But this year, not winning is definitely making me uncomfortable. And and things are just there's more important things. I mean, it's very important. I love sports. I love everything about sports. But I just need to start to let go a little bit in the sense of all right, it ended on Sunday. There was nothing I personally could have did except with my fantasy football team. There's things I do and I make mistakes. But that being said, I'm trying to learn to let go a little bit and, let go and let God type of thing. So my rant, I changed it because as George was speaking, I realized that what I was going to start talking about might have been a little political. And I don't know I don't know what's happened in the news this week, which is shocking that this world is what it's certain.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the things I stopped.
You run around with guns and kill people, cool. I guess that's the new thing.
Well,
they don't let us do that in LA. You'll really get in trouble for that out here. But I guess
it's funny because
whatever.
I had a guy on Twitter, so I said, and again, I stopped doing political stuff on this show for the most part. I mean, I'm just
for the most part.
No, like I used to always talk about it. I don't bring it up anymore. I don't really post on social media. But going with the Kyle Rittenhouse, like the guy's like, those looters shouldn't have been there. And I said, you're 100% right. They shouldn't have been there doing that. But you can't say that they shouldn't have been there. But then this kid comes from miles away with a gun, and he should have been there. He's not a cop. He's not part of the National Guard. He was just a white man who wanted to shoot people. That's basically what it was. And and again,
got away with murder. He
right, exactly. And all these people like, yeah, but that the person he shot had a criminal record. He didn't. These people didn't have a sign that say they were criminals. And again, he's not a police officer. He's not a National Guard. He shouldn't have been there.
Yeah. I don't
because now we're saying if I think this kid's a threat, if I think Kyle Rittenhouse is a threat to me, I could go with the gun and confront him. And if things get out of hand, I could shoot him, and it'd be like, okay, that's not the way society is.
They set a precedent that is going to be really, really tough.
The Wild West.
Yeah, it really is. I don't want to get into it because, like I said,
but Rico, going back to the fantasy football, I stopped watching the Oregon game at halftime yesterday.
I saw that. So they got really romped last night. Oh,
I'll end with this, Rico.
I'm a terrible person because when I know Oregon's doing bad, I know how miserable you are, and a little part of me laughs about it because literally what I was just talking about, like you said, you had a rough Sunday because how bad Oregon did.
Let me just explain this to you. They have a top 10 recruiting class every year. Mika Pittman, who's Michael Pittman's brother, transferred. He's an elite wide receiver. Oregon is competing for a national championship going into this game. He transfers because he's like, all this guy wants to do, Mario Cristobal, he should go coach Army. All he wants to do is run the wishbone and run 70 times a game. They had one completion midway through the second quarter last night. They are the worst offensive scheme. All he wants to do is run. He's not going to get fired because he's going to win 9 and 10 games. But if you have a top 10 recruiting class every year, like he has, and you go in and you get your ass kicked to Utah 38-7 or whatever the hell it was because I stopped watching at halftime, you should not be coaching. You should go coach Army where you could coach like it's 1948 and run the ball 70 times a game.
Yeah, I agree. I watched a little bit of the game and I didn't know. Sometimes, you just see an offense just struggling, and you could tell. I watched like 2 series of that game, and I watched Oregon. And I was like, they just like they weren't in the game. It was bottom line, like whether it was the coaches, whether it was the play calling, they just weren't on the field. And I was like, this is not even worth bothering.
But when your star wide receiver leaves when you're battling for a championship, and he was a starter because he's like, this offense sucks. That's a problem. And look at George putting salt in the wound.
Anyway, I love you, Monte.
All right, Rico, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. I'll see you next week.
See you next week. All right, I want to thank Gus. Make sure to watch Huddle Up with Gus. I want to thank George. I want to thank Rico. And my final point is, listen, guys, I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. There's a lot of hate going on in the world, so be thankful for the people you have around you who are supportive, your friends, your family, and just enjoy the Thanksgiving. Really, really, really reach out to your loved ones and your friends because, like we said, there's a lot of hate going on in this country, and we definitely need a lot more love. All right, I'll see you guys on tomorrow. Brad Ward and Amory will join me. We will recap Week 11 in the NFL. You've been watching the full Monte Sports Show live on YouTube. You have a record that will never be broken.
You can't trip on that.
They hit big shots with Rudolph. I think the Clippers have no idea.
Oh, look at that reaction. Look at that reaction.